Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
This week on Mvskoke Vision, at the January 4th Mvskoke Creek Nation National Council meeting, Representative Randall Hicks was elected as the new Speaker of the National Council. He appeared this week on Mvskoke Radio to speak with hosts Gary Fife and Angel Ellis about his recent trip to Washington, D.C. and what the future holds for the National Council in the coming sessions. And by the way, did you know that the Mvskoke Creek Nation National Council has a YouTube channel? Just go to YouTube and search Mvskoke Creek National Council and subscribe to view all of the MCN-NC meetings. And thanks for watching Mvskoke Vision.
Welcome to our studio, Mr. Randall Hicks. He's a National Council Speaker. We appreciate you making time. I know you must have a pretty crazy schedule these days, and it's picking up speed.
Yes, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you, Mr. Gary Fife.
Okay, and then of course our colleague Angel Ellis is sitting in on this one. I'll tell you what, let's start this one off. Kind of let you loose here now. If you got a message to share with our listeners here, Mvskoke citizens and our community, what's on your mind?
I'm glad to be here this morning. Actually, I'd just like to say thank you to the citizens. And I just ask that the citizens kind of be patient with the National Council, the newly elected officials, and actually with our new administration. I know they've been conducting some interviews, and I know people want change, and they want change immediately, but that's why I'm just asking just to be patient with us. In the future, I do foresee some changes coming. And
where would you say you are in the process? Now, you've just been installed. You've had a couple of months now to kind of settle into the position, and particularly as Speaker, it's got to be pretty crazy. So how would you describe your status?
My status? Well, day one. I mean, as soon as you're elected as Speaker, you become Speaker that instant, and you just hit the ground running. And I believe my former employers, being a general manager as such, with the responsibilities of the casinos, kind of in.
Has there been any big adjustment from being, a council representative to going to being the Speaker of the National Council? Can you talk about the different responsibilities?
Yes, actually the difference is you're more, I don't know the words, but it's just more involved in the tribal, not administration, but just with the laws and everything. Mm-hmm. Everything is just, you're not bombarded, but you're involved in every aspect of the tribe. As far as the council, you are somewhat, but the Speaker, I mean, you're involved daily.
Sure. And so, I'm kind of trying to envision it, and I might not have all the details, so you can for sure correct me, but it seems like when you're a council rep, you might author or present legislation, but then as Speaker, aren't you the guy who has to compile all those agendas and things like that?
Right. You do all that, and then every piece of legislation comes through the Speaker. I mean, you have to do your research, read, and just follow up on every aspect of that piece of legislation. Mm-hmm. And then it goes out to the committee.
Okay.
It sounds like you've already been bombarded.
Yeah. Like I said, it's day one. I mean, you just hit the ground running. I mean, there's no
Like from the moment you're pretty much elected speaker, like you're running the meeting.
right. Exactly.
That
same.
So would you say that how's that transition been? We have new council members too. Is everybody kind of learning their flow and the way things work?
Yeah. With the new council reps, of course, you try to explain to them some of the things that to look forward to and how some of the citizens will react to you being a new council rep. Basically, just face-to-face training and pulling some documents and showing them, okay, piece of legislation, this is what it does, this is where it goes, the steps actually it goes through. So.
All the internal processes that everybody has to kind of understand. And you are recently back from a trip to DC with some of our tribal leaders, and I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through that trip and just kind of share with us what you guys feel like you've gotten accomplished. I know that you've met with NCAI and things like that. Can you just kind of give us the overview of that and how it went?
Yes. Basically, again, fly out to DC and you hit the ground running. I mean, we've met with Representative Horn, Representative Hearn, I believe, and then my mind's going blank here. But we did have some meetings in the Senate, and then we actually get to witness the chief address the committees on the needs that the tribe needs, some of our wants. That was an issue. And then we also met the NCAI president. Heard her State of the Nation address.
It's on Sharp.
Yes, Ms. Sharp's wonderful lady. And then while we were out there, they also had the National JOM conference, and we were able to attend that. I know Chief and Second Chief attended more meetings than I did, but we were actually out there and were recognized as a tribe that actually helps fund National JOM. I mean,
wonderful. Yeah, it sounds like a really busy trip. I'm kind of curious if you can, and I don't know if it's something you can speak on. I watched a little bit of those subcommittee addresses. What are some of the themes that we're seeing that tribes are needing when it comes to federal government negotiations and when it comes to advocating for tribes? What was some of the things that our tribe was advocating for in Washington?
Well, of course, it's always sovereignty. Sovereignty is always an issue. That was an issue that was addressed. Indigenous women was addressed. Of course, some things, the Murphy case, the McGirt case, some of those things were brought up as well. Some things that I can't go into more detail about, but it was addressed. Just some of the concerns like that our tribe is looking at, like health. Of course, it's always healthcare, education. Those are given, but to actually tell the Congress what our actually needs are, it was just.
Can you talk at all about how important that is for us as tribes to send our representatives to DC and be heard on the issues that we need? Because it seems like, if we're not there at the table, involved in these, conversations, like we often see, treaties left unfulfilled or things like that. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's very important that we send tribal representation to DC to voice our concerns. It's kind of like in perspective on our level, a Creek citizen coming to me asking me or needing some assistance. That one-on-one, face-to-face interaction, it lets me see and hear what they really need. And so vice versa, if you're speaking to a congressman and face-to-face, it does make more and mean more. And it also lets them know that, hey, this tribe is actually speaking up for their citizens. And so to me, it was very, very beneficial.
Let me ask you about your personal viewpoint here, or speculation perhaps. We're seeing an administration now that is not very receptive to Native issues, and has kind of angered some of our people from time to time. How would you size up what the current White House is doing for or against or with Native American tribal government?
Well, the ones that we spoke with, of course, when you speak to them face to face, it's like, oh, I'm in full support. And so, I mean, what can you do? We take their word, and just hopefully that they stay behind it. And some of the issues, I just hope and pray that they do keep their word. It's kind of like,
Right.
again, kind of back like how citizens see National Council representatives. They want us to keep our word as well. And so I just hope and pray that Congress will do the same.
If you had to kind of bullet list some of the biggest issues right now facing, like within our tribe, like what are some of the, as Speaker of the National Council, like what are the big topics on your mind right now? Whether you can go into them in depth or not, can you kind of give us some insight into like what is kind of occupying your thoughts and your preparations?
Well, a couple of issues would be the Murphy case and then the Mvskoke case. Depending on the outcome of that situation, that could change the whole Oklahoma status as far as Indian territory.
Sure.
So those two are some big issues.
How would you describe that status right now? With the issues we're seeing between tribal governments and Governor Stitt and his rebranding committee and those kind of things, they're not looking real friendly. And that's, I think, being kind.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, folks, but that's the way it is. That's the way it is. He's saying one thing about the compacts that they don't renew, and we have to rework them. Tribes saying, "Oh, wait a minute, you just reworked it already," and thereby renewed the contract. So that doesn't make sense. And he wants more money, and we're thinking, well, sit down and talk. Then we're seeing other things where tribes are coming forward with their concerns and things, and we're not really seeing his administration react in a positive manner. I mean, the Attorney General pulled out of the gambling thing, saying, nope, no thanks. And then his Secretary for Native Affairs, Lisa Billy, resigned, saying, no, you shouldn't have done that, man. All you're doing is antagonizing the tribes. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure how related this is, but then we see the Oklahoma rebranding campaign. The days of Native Oklahoma on the license plates are long gone. We understand that, but for them to come out with that campaign and say everything started in 1899, and say, wait a minute, whoa, that ain't flying. I'm sorry, folks. Right. So as you see these kinds of things happening, what are your thoughts? So where do you need to go?
Well, of course, my thoughts is, my first thought is it could have been handled different, and it should have been. I think our governor just wanted to be too aggressive and trying to demand what we need to do. I can't speak too much because it is in litigation, but I personally, I think it could have been handled very easily. As Native Americans, we could sit down and we can negotiate, but that was never an issue. It was basically iron fist status. You're going to do this. Yeah,
taking that a step further, it's kind of, and this is my own description or dealing with it, is that he wanted us to sort of bow down.
Right.
So bow your heads and everything will be just fine. Just do what I tell you. And I think our peoples all around the state have fought too long and too hard to go back to that. And I am proud of every one of those tribal governments that stood up and said, this ain't going to happen.
Right. And Mr. Five, there's been times that we've had representatives running for office come to council and want an appropriation. Mm-hmm. One of the questions that I've always asked them was, tell me where our tribal monies are going. Because it's earmarked for education. And if it was earmarked for education, then why are we in such a deficit? And to this day, I still have not received an answer for anyone that is running. So,
do you have any feelings on just the climate for indigenous people in Oklahoma right now? I've kind of on the side kind of had these conversations with some of my friends, and I feel like I got to grow up in a time where it was okay to be Native American and there wasn't just a ton of pushback. I mean, not to the extent that my grandparents felt. I felt like I got to enjoy a time where there was vastly improving acceptance. And then all of a sudden we're in this really weird spot where I feel like I'm almost in the twilight zone, where the stories that my grandparents have told me is wow, it's just right there under the surface, ready to bubble up at any time. Do you have any feelings on that?
That's a good question. I've heard stories too from my friends that they're Native American, but they don't have the characteristics, I should say. And you hear both sides. You hear some of the stuff that they went through, and then also some of the stuff that they have enjoyed as far as being Native American. So I kind of see where you can come from, but
it's making me wonder if I didn't just grow up in an insulated community, because most of my friends were Native, and it was okay. We just were ourselves, and nobody really picked on us for that in that small community. And then you see these things rolling out with the state where Native Americans are being erased from the branding of the state, and trying to kind of redraft our history. And it's pretty alarming that quickly with one leader that mindset can change.
Right, and it's sad. It's sad. I hate to see it, and you're absolutely right. You got one person that's actually doing the division amongst our people. So.
Well, it takes me back to the days of the educational process, and I think how it failed in dealing with the state's Native people. I mean, even when I was in school, the land rush was a big thing. And everybody talked about, oh yeah, the state took off and did all this stuff. And some of us were asked to reenact it. Line up on one side of the field and take your towel and run out and lay it down, and that plot's yours. And I always kind of wondered, I was too young to really know the implications, but I was kind of wondering, why are we doing this? And thinking, what about the people whose land we're running over? Wait a minute now, this was not unoccupied land. So is it a real need for us to revamp that educational process?
Yeah.
Change the thinking, so
Right. Yeah, I think so, because I too grew up in that area or era where they reenacted the land run, and not knowing the whole purpose behind it and participating. And then as you grow up, then you hear or you learn more about it, and you're like, should I have known back then what I had participated. So.
And then the state goes and names its teams the Boomers and the Sooners.
Yeah.
And you bring that one up in public, and you'll get tarred and feathered.
Right.
But let's switch a little more specifically to the council now. As you've geared up, you've settled into the committee positions and taken on some of those issues. Can you give us sort of a preview of what kind of things that the council will be focusing on in the upcoming sessions?
I think, like I mentioned, some of like the Murphy case. Those are gimmies that we're going to face, and then other issues we take them as they come. I mean, it's hard to say or foresee what's going to come down.
Pretty soon, you guys will be having to vote on cabinet secretaries once executive branch chooses. So that will be something that we'll be watching closely for. And I was hearing that there could be some internal discussion about where you guys would allow media cameras. Is that something that you guys want to talk about a little bit, or something that you can share with us here?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to. As far as the executive positions, I do know the chief and second chief has been conducting interviews, and I know that he's mentioned that he had over 180 applicants for 8 positions. So, and they're interviewing, I believe every one of them that's applied.
Wow.
Because I know at one point in council when we've had chiefs, secretaries come before us, I mean, I've heard many times that we cannot find qualified Creek citizens for these positions, and I know better. We actually have people on staff that are well educated and very versed in their departments, but's never been given the opportunity to do anything.
Do you think that's probably a goal as the council? Like, I know that it's like a two-part approval process. You know, like first the executive branch has to present their applicants. Is there anything particular, like you mentioned, qualified Creek citizens, that you guys look for when you consider approving these positions? Is that the main thing, qualified tribal members?
Well, you always want to be in Mvskoke Creek Nation. You want to empower with Mvskoke Creek Nation citizens.
Definitely.
That's the first thing. But also on the application it does state Mvskoke Creek Nation given first preference. But if you find somebody that maybe isn't or is better qualified, then you always leave that door open. I mean,
so it's not like a hard rule, but it's definitely something that you think about when you're.
it's just like a business. You want the best for your business in order to move forward.
Sure, I think that's kind of the same policy we take when we hire staff too. Is that, you know, first, are there any of our folks out there qualified to do the job? Is there any kind of other hard, fast rules that you guys look for when it comes to candidates? Do you consider backgrounds and things like that?
Yes. After the chief makes their selections for the secretary, then should it be Secretary of Education, Health, they will actually go to the committee of that is over that area, and then they will do another interview. Council will interview, and then then they will pass through that committee, and then they will go to a full council for a third interview.
Okay.
So questions are asked, and so,
Related thought there. In the past, sometimes the council and the administration didn't get along very well, and there were some real heated kind of discussions and separations and lawsuits. How would you characterize your relationship with the administration right now?
Right now, I truly believe our council, our national council, is going to be a good council to work with, and work well with chief and second chief administration. Them chief and second chief coming from national council, we've already have a network intertwined with council, and then with 5 new reps coming in, they seem to be pretty knowledgeable, and I foresee us working well together. So.
For the time being.
Well, honestly, I think it's going to be a good working network, and I foresee good changes coming down.
You know, I got the same feeling when we did the interview with him back earlier this year. It's kind of a receptive discussion. One thing, I know we've kind of touched on it regarding cameras and recording, but the bigger issue there is freedom of the press. I feel like we're heading in the right direction, and would love to see a constitutional amendment, allowing us to do our jobs. And that's a question, of course, will have to be debated and worked over and probably battled over or whatever. But how would you see it?
Hopefully we won't have to take it to the constitutional amendment. I know our internal affairs committee met last night, and the media was actually one of the topics that they discussed. No changes have been made, but amendments are being discussed, so that's a start. So.
Well, I'd like to see us be able to participate in something like that, whether it's our manager, Rita, or myself, or Jared here, or Angel. You get somebody from the ground pounders, the foot soldiers, to come in and tell you what's really going on and what we feel when we cover a story. And
Right.
sometimes having to deal with the negative, but our people are saying, well, we want to know the truth.
Right.
So I'd like to see some sort of a session where we could do that.
Okay. And while I'm on here, may I explain something
Oh, sure.
that some of the citizens may have an issue with as far as the media and as far as
Oh, absolutely.
council posting our videos?
Yeah.
There's a process. Once our live feeds, once we record them, there's a process that it goes through, and actually, in Mvskoke Creek Nation, the PR department is the one that is actually loading our videos, and so there's been some issues there. It's not totally National Council that is doing
Right,
this,
yeah.
so I know citizens are like they want it instantly.
So you probably get the same kind of phone calls that we get,
Right.
like, where's the coverage? Where's the coverage?
Why didn't you cover this?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I just want to take that little opportunity to
Oh,
try
definitely.
to explain and let citizens know there's a process of it actually going through it, as well as you guys know. So
But I think that we in our department are trying to find solutions to help alleviate those requests, and so that they're not burning down your phone lines. We've adapted our coverage so that it can kind of include that instant gratification that citizens want, and we want to be an asset to all that government transparency that citizens are needing and that you guys want to portray. And so we are kind of working and adapting as needed to fulfill those needs and help take that pressure off wherever we can. We've recently kind of learned how to utilize the streams that you guys put out on your meetings, and we can recapsulate them into videos and post them, on our websites too. And hopefully that helps get information quickly to people when they need it.
right.
In the last couple of minutes we have here on this segment here, is there something you'd like to leave with our listeners? A thought, perhaps?
Again, I would just like to say, if there's any issues or concerns that our citizens have, feel free to give us a call. All of our information is on the website. I know I hear, well, council never returns calls or answer their phones. Well, if you don't call us, then obviously we can't return.
You've responded to our requests pretty quickly. I think that we've been able to tap information from you as quick as you can get it out anyway. So that's been an asset to us.
Yes.
Speaker Randall, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mr. Five, I just ask the citizens be patient with us, and like I said earlier, there will be change. I know we can't do it as quick as everybody wants, but just be patient with us and have faith in Mvskoke Creek Nation and with our administration and council, and eventually we will get there. I think we have a very, very good national council and administration that actually has heart, that actually really cares for our citizens and wants the best for our nation. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Speaker Randall Hicks. We appreciate you coming in to chat with us this morning.